Everyone, Namaste. This is me, Anjali Kochar. Welcome back to my channel, Tookwings Blog by Anjali Kochar. So today we had a conversation with Mr. Nandan Gijare, who is the managing director of I2CAN, Indian Institute of Cosmetology, Aesthetics and Nutrition. And we had a lovely conversation about aesthetic medicine, the growing trend, the growing awareness around aesthetic medicine and aesthetic treatments, be it surgical or non surgical. So, we had a really insightful conversation. So, if you are someone who is looking for a Botox treatment early on, or maybe in any age, then maybe you want to, understand what the treatment is, how it works first. And then if you're looking for treatments like anti-aging or treatments like skin treatments, or the vampire facial treatments that is getting popular, or the weight loss treatments out there, I think this is the right podcast for you. You should just go watch it. Go watch Mr. Nandan Gijare speak about aesthetic medicine and how it works, what are the good things about it, what may be the side effects, and what is the right approach to go ahead with aesthetic medicine. So, yeah, today's podcast is all about that. Or get all your questions answered. And if you still have any questions, do reach out to us, do reach out to them, and we are happy to answer all your questions. Hi, Nandan. Welcome to Kahaniyaan by Tookwings Blog. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I'm good. How are you?
Great. Lovely. So today we are going to ask you a lot of questions about, aesthetic treatments, which is a growing trend, of course, in India. And, we'll grill you with a lot of questions we all have. But before that, at Kahania, we have a tradition that we start our podcast with one story that defines you, one story that you would like to share with all of us.
Okay. One story. There are a lot of stories I have, but uh, well, there is this one story, and that really, defines the way I think these days today. That every problem is actually an opportunity. That's the crux of the story. So when I started my career, I was working. I was working for this company, and my first client was a very, very large stock exchange.
Okay.
And I was the junior most person because I had just joined. And uh, one day they said that we used to manage the mainframes on which the actual trading used to happen. And there was this training organized by these people, which was supposed to be in Singapore. And I was working on that project for like 6 months by that time, and I had settled well, and I was quite respected in the team and all of that. uh, and then suddenly somebody came and said that we cannot send you because you are junior, so we
Hmm.
will have to send someone else. And then somebody else was picked up for that training. That person got trained, came back, and then I was told, okay, now that this person is trained, he will join this team and you will be pushed out of it. So despite working very hard, I was pushed out of that team. I went suddenly from one large customer. I started having very small customers, a lot of them, and I had to travel a lot and all of that. Very disappointed. And one of those small customers was government of Maharashtra.
Okay.
And that was the time when, Andhra Pradesh had just computerized everything, and these people were looking at it. And I was managing something like a very, very small piece of computer hardware that they had that time.
Hmm.
And I went there. I connected very well with the director IT that time, who was managing the IT for government of Maharashtra, and we started working together.
Hmm.
And in next 6 months, there was this largest implementation of IT that happened. And during the inauguration, me and the director IT, we were supposed to give a demonstration to the CM, and
Hmm.
my entire management was sitting there, and I was doing that with the director IT. So uh, the problem that I faced, whatever discrimination I felt I faced, actually created an opportunity that I could convert.
Very.
And that, I think, is something that everybody should take. Whenever something negative happens to you, look at it this way, that there might be something
Right.
very positive that might come out of it later.
Right. That's absolutely true. And, an amazing way to look at life, I would say. So, let's talk a little bit about I2CAN and your association with it.
Okay. Well, the year was 2016. I was thinking of doing something of my own. I had worked in these large IT corporations and all of that for quite a while, and I was thinking of starting something of my own. My entire family, my father's side, is into education. So I was quite comfortable with doing something in education. I was looking out for options. And that was the time when somebody came and said, "Hey, listen, this is one of the options. It's not very traditional education as per the definition, but this is something you should look at." And I kind of did my research and I figured out that aesthetic medicine is one industry which is going to grow very fast.
Mm,
It is one industry where people do not have a lot of options to get trained.
mm,
And so I thought this is a good option for me as well as for people who want to get trained in this domain.
mm,
So, that is how I2CAN came to being. 2016 is the year when we started,
mm,
and very interesting year to start actually, because we started and in a couple of months there was Notbandi.
mm,
In couple of more months there was GST. In
mm.
couple of more years there was COVID. So a very interesting time to start and a lot of challenges. But I'm
Mm.
very happy where we are today.
Right. So I just want to understand that are students really interested in, pursuing courses in aesthetic medicine as of now? I mean, to date, if we talk about today.
So if you talk about today, yes, definitely.
Hmm.
Because there is a lot of awareness. Even among people who want to become aestheticians, there is a lot of awareness. So I remember that in 2016, uh, we never had a lot of questions. So people didn't know at all about the field. So we had to like educate them about what is this and how will it help them and all of that. But today, when I look at the prospects who call us to, do the course, they know much more. They have a lot of questions. They want to know whether we will teach them this procedure or not, and if they can do this particular procedure. If not, then why, and all of that. So yes, there is much more awareness today, and students are asking a lot of questions these days. Yes.
Right, right. So now if we, talk about aesthetic treatments and the, ongoing trends in India. So when I, hear this word aesthetic treatments and then, I diversify it, I just think about one or two things. Those are maybe Botox or fillers. But it is of course, a wide field. So could you just, uh, could you just let us all know what all are included in aesthetic treatments?
So aesthetic medicine is one field where it's a set of treatment where you make somebody look better than how that person looks right now. All the procedures which cater to this one goal in some way or the other, they come under aesthetic medicine. You can say that. So things like even say acne treatments.
Mm-hmm.
We call it pimples in our normal, day-to-day lives, but acne treatments. And then these acnes leave some scars on the face. So treatment of those scars. Some people have issues with pigmentation, so they have like dark spots and all of that. So treatment of those that pigmentation issues that people have. A large part of this is anti-aging. So once we start aging, there are signs of aging that appear on our face, which people don't like necessarily these days. So things like wrinkles or lines, fine lines. So treatment of these things, they come under aesthetic medicine.
Right.
And then overall rejuvenation of skin, tightening of skin, rejuvenation of skin. People might feel that their skin is dull. So, how do you brighten it? How do you lighten it? How do you make it appear, plump, soft? All of those procedures would fall under aesthetic medicine.
Right, right, right. So, which of the procedures has got the most amount of attention these days from the young generation, if I would ask?
See, if you talk about young generation, then you will have to take out anti-aging completely because they are still young.
Right.
So they focus more on completely cosmetic side of procedure. So things like they would be more interested in things like permanent hair removal, for example, or acne scar removal, or acne procedures, or those are the kind of procedures which they are interested in. We in India also are facing obesity challenges a lot these days.
Mm.
So weight loss or body shaping, that is also one of the very popular procedures which is coming up these days. So if you look at youngsters these days, I see that they they want to start early so
Mm.
that these procedures are much more effective for them for a much longer period of time. And these are, I think, some of the procedures that they're interested in right now.
Right, right, right. So when you speak about starting early, or things like weight loss, and youngsters are moving towards these treatments. So do you think that is it healthy if we talk about to actually expose yourself or your skin or your body to treatments at an early age?
It depends on what kind of procedure it is. So, say for example, I'm in my 50s and I want to do anti-aging procedure. So by that time, I have already developed a lot of very heavy wrinkles.
Mm.
So the kind of procedures I will have to go for would be quite severe in nature.
Right.
And even after doing those procedures, I may not get full results. I will only get partial results. As against that, if I am in my, say, mid or late 30s,
Mm.
and I am aware that I'm going to develop this and I want to prevent it and I want to
Mm.
start early, then I can go for much milder procedures. I can go for products. I can go for milder procedures. And if I start at that age with those kind of procedures, then they are quite safe, completely safe. But at the same time, they will make sure that when I reach my 50s, I would still be able to maintain a much better appearance.
Right, 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 right. Totally. But when we talk about aesthetic medicine or aesthetic treatments, as I mentioned earlier, also like the first thing that comes to our mind is fillers, Botox, and the things, the treatments, the Bollywood, or the people in the entertainment industry are going for, or social media is filled with such things. So, do you think, what are your views on such treatments, and what would be your advice for anyone who is, looking forward to have a Botox treatment as early in their age, or maybe going forward when they are older in their 40s or 50s?
Yeah, so as far as see Botox is concerned, these days I see a trend in the West that people in their early 20s
Mm.
start doing Botox, and it is being promoted as if in smaller quantities it is much better, it is good, and you can actually do it in early 20s and all of that.
Mm.
As far as Botox and fillers is concerned, I think you should do it when you really need it.
Right.
And that is not early 20s. That is not even late 20s. That is not even early 30s.
Mm.
So there are procedures which you can go for. So you can start early. It's not a problem if you start early, but how do you start matters. If you start with things like Botox and fillers in your early 20s, then it's going to be a problem. So
Mm.
you need to combine wellness and aesthetic medicine procedures together. And you have to make sure that the kind of procedures you are going for are age appropriate.
Right. Right. So, when you say that we need to combine wellness and aesthetic medicine treatment, so could you just simplify it for our audiences?
Yeah, so when I talk about wellness, I talk about things like doing the right kind of exercises, maybe yoga, having right kind of food. All of that actually gives you much better longevity.
Mm.
And if you combine them with these procedures, then the results are going to be much better and the results are going to be much more longer lasting. So you cannot look at these procedures in isolation. You
Mm.
have to look at these procedures as a part of a whole regime that you are following, where you are also exercising regularly, you are eating right kind of food, you are having right quantity of food, and on top of that, you are undergoing these procedures.
Right, right. So, as you also mentioned that people should not go for Botox or fillers in their early 20s, right? So, as you mentioned, and as I've also read recently, that Gen Zs are very driven towards Botox treatments and they want to start early. So, what would be your advice to them?
See, one thing that we should first understand is why is Gen Z doing that?
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
This is a generation which believes in instant gratification.
Hmm.
Where like uh, you see that we used to watch 30-minute videos and then we started watching 5 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds and all of that. So they need instant gratification, and a lot of procedures within aesthetic medicine take time to show results.
Right,
There are only two procedures in aesthetic medicine which give you instant results, and they are Botox and fillers.
right,
So you do Botox and you see the result instantly. By the time you leave the clinic, you have full result.
right.
Whereas if you go for something like a PRP or you go for something like chemical peels, then it takes time. So it takes few weeks to start showing results, and it takes few months for the full results to be visible. But those procedures are much longer lasting.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So if you really want to look at these procedures, you will have to look at it holistically. You cannot just look in the short term, because if you look at short term, then in 5 years from now, you would be much worse off.
Right.
So there are things where instant gratification makes sense. There are things that there are places where instant gratification makes sense. There are places where it does not. And unfortunately, this is one place where it does not make sense.
Right.
So when Gen Z looks at these procedures, they should give time. There
Hmm.
are things that take time.
Right, right. So, what are the alternatives and what are the slower aesthetic medicine treatments that they can go for if they're maybe if they want to replace Botox with something?
So, if you say want to replace Botox for anti-aging kind of purposes, then there is PRP, platelet-rich plasma, where we take blood from patient and then we derive something called as platelet-rich plasma out of it, and we re-inject it. So it's patient's own blood which gives those beneficial components which are injected into the patient. Then
Hmm.
there is chemical peels. Very, very old procedure, well-known procedure. In fact, few thousand years back, we were still doing chemical peels. So if you go for right kind of peels, then they will have more or less the same result, but then it will take time. It will take much longer time. But if you go for these kind of procedures, then the results are much longer lasting. And even if people decide to go for Botox, they should club it with PRP or some other procedure so that the result of that Botox lasts much longer.
Okay, okay. Right, right. So now when if we talk about other treatments, other aesthetic medicines or aesthetic treatments, if we talk about other treatments, and then you also mentioned in between weight loss. And I think it is one of the big challenge that a lot of us face, and especially the younger generation who just want to look their best versions. So, what are the treatments available for weight loss for that matter? And are they healthy? Are they safe? So, if you could explain a bit about that.
Yeah, so there are a lot of these machine-based procedures which are available these days. So there are laser-based procedures, then there is cryolipolysis. All of these procedures are quite safe,
Hmm.
and they will give you weight loss. They will, and rather than weight loss, they will give you inch loss.
Hmm.
So these procedures are more about shaping the body, body shaping, body contouring, rather than pure weight loss. Because a lot of times these days, the problem is not weight. The
Right,
problem is which part of your body has accumulated fat. So
right.
tummy, for example, or hands, that is where people don't want a lot of fat. So these
Hmm.
procedures are the only ones which can actually selectively take off fat from specific parts of the body.
Hmm.
So these are safe procedures. But as I said, you can never rely on these procedures alone. You
Right.
have to follow this through with right kind of diet, right kind of exercise regime, and a lifestyle change basically. Because these procedures will definitely give you results, but
Hmm.
those results will not last if you are not eating right. Those
Right.
results will not last if you are not exercising properly.
Mm-hmm.
So, so if you really want your body to change the way it looks right now, then you will have to have a lifestyle change for that.
Right, right. And is there a particular age that people should go for such weight loss procedures?
See, generally in India, we don't perform any aesthetic procedures for people below 18.
Okay.
And after that, I don't think for these kind of procedures there is a specific age.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, the younger you are, you should be able to do it without the procedures also, because your body actually responds much better to exercises or to diet changes and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you want quicker results, then you can combine that with the procedures. You will get you will reach the destination quicker if you are doing these procedures. But then maintaining that is something that only diet and exercises can help you do.
Right, right. Now, let's talk about anti-aging, for example. What are the treatments options available in anti-aging if we talk about aesthetic medicine?
So anti-aging, as far as anti-aging is concerned, there are surgical procedures, so cosmetic surgeries, which are available on the extreme side. So if you have like reached late 50s and you have never done anything, and now you are in such a bad shape that you still want some improvement, then surgery is the only option. So that is the extreme. And then on the non-surgical side, we have options like we have Botox, we have fillers,
Mm-hmm.
which give you some quick results. And then there are other procedures like, say, we have PRP. We have skin tightening devices these days like RF, MNRF, HIFU. These devices can perform a lot of skin tightening procedures. We have chemical peels. So, if you really see the spectrum of services available, we have a lot of options available these days.
Right. So one question I also have that about aesthetic medicine is about what is the if we talk about the median generation, I mean, are the younger generation more attracted or the older, or is there a median, or what is the demographic like? Who is more attracted towards aesthetic medicine these days?
So, short answer is everybody is. Now, it depending on the age group they belong to, what kind of procedures are they going to changes. So if you
Mm-hmm.
look at the young generation, for example, people in early 20s, late 20s, they will go more for procedures like permanent hair removal, or tattoo removal, or they would go for semi-permanent makeup, or they would go for procedures like scar removal, acne procedures, because they are at an age where they are facing these problems. Whereas if you move into, say, late 40s, early 50s, then people are primarily doing anti-aging procedures. But the spectrum is so wide that even the younger generation has some procedures they can perform, and the older generation has their own set of procedures. Now, one interesting change that is happening in the industry is the percentage of male patients.
Okay.
And earlier we saw that, 10 years back, 95% patients used to be female patients. But
Mm-hmm.
with social media and all of that now, influencers and all of that, now there are more and more male patients who are coming up and getting these procedures done.
Right.
So when you handle a male patient and when you handle a female patient, their expectations are very different. So like females, they don't want to age, and men want to age gracefully. So their expectations would be different. But if you really see, the percentage of male patients is drastically increasing these days.
Mm-hmm. So, what kind of treatments do they prefer these days, if I may ask?
Primarily, they go for anti-aging, not as severe as female patients, but then they do go for anti-aging. They go for these procedures of permanent hair removal, primarily for things like beard trimming, for example. So
Mm-hmm.
they would do permanent hair removal for beard trimming rather than full body permanent hair removal. So those are the kind of procedures that they are going for these days.
Right, right. So, when you mention permanent hair removal, that also, I also want to talk about it. So, what is the trend like in that?
that has been a very, very, very steady, top three
Mm,
procedures in India. And in fact, Botox and fillers in last 10 years has become more and more popular.
mm,
Before, like 5 years back, permanent hair removal was the number one aesthetic procedure in India.
mm.
So, of course, it's like a bread and butter procedure for aesthetic professionals. It has consistently been that way, and it will continue to be that way because that is one of the best things you can do. You don't have to wax. I mean, that's a painful
Right.
thing to do, and a lot of girls do not want to do that regularly. So it has been very, very, very steadily and across the globe. So,
Mm.
if you look at worldwide statistics, permanent hair removal is second most popular procedure across the globe. And even in India, it is the second most popular after Botox and fillers.
Right, right. So if we, let's say the wedding season is going on right now. So does there, do things change? I mean, is there a increase in demand when there are a lot of weddings out there? So about such treatments, be it skin, anti-aging, or hair removal, or weight loss for that matter.
Yeah, the demand increases slightly. Earlier, it used to really make a difference, but these days, what has happened is people have started creating these packages. So there are like now 9 month packages. So 9 months before your marriage, your procedures will start because, as I said, a lot of these procedures take time to show results. So
Mm.
people start early. So
Right.
because you're doing a 9 month regime, then it
Mm.
doesn't matter whether it's wedding season or not. You would be undergoing maybe fifth month or sixth month of that procedure. But because of these, packages now these days, the demand doesn't change a lot.
Right, right. It's constant and everybody wants to go for aesthetic
Yeah,
medicine
yeah,
treatments.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So, are there any side effects of such treatments if we, maybe talk about each treatment or at large, if we talk about aesthetic medicine treatments, are there any side effects? Because people do want to go for such treatments, but they have their own apprehensions about the treatments as well.
Yeah, well, there are side effects to everything. So
Right.
yes, there are side effects, but now the technology has gone to the point where the extent of these side effects is very less.
Mm,
So you can definitely get PIH, so post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which is like patchy or darker skin sometimes. But it mostly happens when patients don't follow the instructions given by the esthetician. So once these procedures are performed, at the end of the procedure, the esthetician actually comes and tells you that, don't do this for next 2 days, don't do this for next 7 days, and take care of your skin and apply additional sunscreen and all of that. And if patients fail to do that, then there might be a problem. But generally, with these procedures today, the technology is so good that there is very rarely any side effect.
right, right. And when I talk about apprehensions, then one apprehension is also about the price point of the procedures. So, what do you have to say about that? Are things changing? Are price points varying for different types of customers, or how does that work?
So in India, definitely price is a very big consideration for these procedures.
Hmm.
And today, what I see is market has adapted.
Hmm.
So some 20 years back, all these machines and products, we were importing mostly all of them from the Western world,
Hmm.
and they were extremely costly. So that used to make the procedures also extremely costly. But when the demand started rising, even Indian players started coming in. Now you see there is a big China market which is producing a lot of these machines and all of that. Indian people, we indigenously are also producing a lot of these machines, products, and all of that. So there are all price points now available. If you talk about, say, a diode laser, which is typically used for permanent hair removal,
Hmm.
then the range starts from something like 1.5 lakhs. So you
Hmm.
get diode laser for 1.5 lakhs. You also get diode laser for 45 lakhs.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
That is the range. So depending on your budget these days, you have machines available. Definitely, a 1.5 lakh machine will not give you same result as a 45 lakh machine.
Hmm.
But if that is acceptable to you, then for a very broad range of population these days, these procedures are available. So you can go to a clinic where the prices are acceptable.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. And when you mention about Western countries and India, then do you see a difference of opinion when it comes to aesthetic medicine in India and in Western countries?
Yeah, there is definitely, because of, a lot of things. One is culture.
Hmm.
So in India, if you really see, we give a lot of importance to say things like natural beauty, inner beauty, and all of those. So
Right.
those concepts are very strong.
Hmm.
So what facial beauty means
Hmm.
uh, is very different from an Indian as compared to what it means to a Western person.
Hmm.
Then we still try to hide. So we are not very comfortable telling people that we are undergoing these procedures. That
Right.
is another thing. So, that also has an impact on how openly and how frequently we are getting these procedures done.
Hmm.
Then affordability is another thing. So if you
Hmm.
look at per capita income of some of the Western countries and what percentage of that income is one procedure,
Hmm.
it's very less for them. So it's easier for them to do these procedures, whereas we still have a lot of cost considerations on our side. So if
Hmm.
you look at all of these things, that is why we were also late entrants.
Hmm.
So US Western world was doing these procedures for a very, very long time. And
Hmm.
initially only the surgical procedures were available, and later on non-surgical options were available. So
Hmm.
we entered this domain when non-surgical options were already available and were quite viable. So if
Hmm.
you really see, Indians prefer doing non-surgical procedures much more.
Right.
If you look at US market, for example, then 45% of aesthetic procedures are surgical, 55% are non-surgical. If you look
Hmm.
at Indian market, it's almost 70-30. So
Hmm.
70% procedures we do are non-surgical.
Right.
So we are more inclined towards non-surgical procedures than surgical procedures. So there are definitely differences.
Right, right, right. So I have a very interesting question when you mentioned about the natural beauty and the concept of natural beauty in India. So I talked to a lot of experts, and so one kind of expert I was talking to the other day was into sattvic eating. So they had a view that if you consume the right kind of food, as you also mentioned about wellness and everything, right? So if you eat the right kind of food and if you have a right kind of lifestyle, or if you do the right kind of exercise every day, then maybe you don't need any kind of medicine or any kind of treatments. So what would be your take on that? I mean, do you think that if we just start eating right and if you just start following a good lifestyle, do we not need the treatments, or is it like a balance that we would still need the treatments?
See, as I said, eating right is essential.
Hmm.
But just because you eat right does not mean that you will never need these procedures. Because even if you eat right, say if I don't like the way my nose looks and I want to change it.
Hmm.
No amount of right eating is going to give me that nose, right? I
Right.
have to get a nose job done for that.
Right.
Or if I am like 60 years old, I will develop wrinkles. I will
Hmm.
develop signs of aging, no matter how healthy I'm eating.
Hmm.
So there will definitely be scope for these procedures despite you eating very, very healthy food. So it
Hmm.
is essential, but it
Hmm.
is not enough.
Right, right. Okay, great. So, if we have to, get to the crux of the conversation, what would be your final thoughts about, people out there who are really interested in aesthetic medicine, who are really, keen to know about it, but maybe, very anxious about the other things we spoke about as well?
So what I would say is, these procedures are real. These procedures actually give you good results.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, just because you are afraid, you feel that, it's going to give me so many side effects and all of that. With new technology, that side is very limited.
Hmm.
So I encourage people to actually go for these procedures, but then keep in mind, you should always remember few things when you go for these procedures. First is, this is not going to give you instant results. You'll have to
Hmm.
be patient.
Right.
People go there and feel that, when they come out, they should have full results on their
Hmm.
face. That's not going to happen. So if you go with that intent, you will be disappointed. So
Mm-hmm.
go there with the intent that, I'm going to invest in this, and in next few months it's going to give me results that I'm looking for. Then you will be happy.
Right.
Second is, always look at this as a piece in the puzzle. So you need to have a more holistic approach. You
Mm-hmm.
need to look at the entire wellness and your overall lifestyle, and how do you have the right kind of lifestyle. And
Mm-hmm.
then the longevity of these procedures is also going to, improve. And don't have any unrealistic expectations. I've seen, people entering with a picture, and they show it to the esthetician and say, I want to look like her. That
Mm-hmm.
never happens. So the expectations you have from these procedures should be realistic, and then you will be happy.
Right, great, absolutely. I think the key takeaways are these that don't have unrealistic expectations about the treatment and don't go for instant results because I think the slow, as we spoke, that the slower the process, the better the results, I would say.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Nandan, for this insightful conversation. And, I had a lot of questions that got answered, and definitely our audiences would have their answers as well. So, thank you so much for this conversation. Lovely having you today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.